Okay. Thank you very much. That's not a problem. I said that. Good morning. So let us start. Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. The subject of my today's talk is serenity beyond joy and sorrow. Serenity is a little bit a word which is used in a sense of calmness, peace, tranquility, quietness, composure, and also equanimity. So I want to use this word serenity from the point of view that balance of mind, peace of mind, because definitely sorrow causes disturbances in the mind. It is one type of sorrow or one type of disturbance. At the same time, joy also can be said to be causing a sort of disturbance of the mind, not in a negative sense, but from the point of view of mind, it is also a disturbance. You cannot have joy continuously, and that will exhaust you. And also later on, it will be difficult to concentrate the mind. That is why Ramanuja has said, Anudharsha, that means mirth as it is called. Extreme joy. Extreme joy is a sort of disturbance. We have to avoid that. So keeping the mind between these two extremes, which causes the disturbances of the mind, I can say that is serenity. Keeping the mind quite calm and under control, that is the most important part. That if we let our mind be controlled by outside forces, and if we wish that, well, there we shall be able to keep the mind quiet and peaceful just by outside forces, that means what we are really experiencing, it will never happen. That means we have to apply our own effort to acquire this serenity or peace of mind or quietness of the mind. That is the point. So for that, we need to know a little bit about in what way mind is seen according to Vedanta. So mind is considered to be a subtle matter. That means it is made up of subtle matter in vibration. So this is very interesting to know that it is matter. Matter means that is physical thing. Just like we perceive through our senses different matter. That means liquid, solid, and also which is, of course, there are air, different types. In the air we see gases and also all those things. So these are matter. That means material objects. And according to Vedanta, mind consists of this type of matter, but they are very subtle. So that is very important to know. So that if there is a machine or there is some instrument which can really go deeper and deeper and deeper, subtler to check the subtler and subtler and subtler substances, probably it will be able to perceive or it will be able to register mind. So that concept is very important because on that many of the Vedantic theories stand. That is the point. So it is a subtle matter in a state of vibration, and it cannot be seen. There are many things we cannot see because our sight is limited. That we know that there are certain things we know that they are existing, but we cannot see. And that is the spectrum of our sight is very limited. And that is true from the point of view of science also. That means if many things subtle, naturally we have to apply our what is called microscope or subtler scopes by which we can really see them. So it cannot be seen, but its existence can be perceived. we cannot say that we do not know, we cannot know that we have a mind. We all know that we have our own minds. So how do you know? Because we have our happiness when we smile or laugh, and we have tears also when we have sorrow. And we know that our mind is getting affected by that. So in that way, there is an entity inside ourselves which get affected, and it affects our what is called physical body also. There is no doubt about that. So there are expression. When I am happy, definitely there will be physical expression by which others will be able to see. And also I know that there is happiness. That is why I have changed. That means a little bit change is my appearance, and also in other features of the body. And also like smiles and tears, they also affect the mind, and we perceive that. There are also what is called exclamations. If we are see something very suddenly something very awesome, then actually there is we feel what is called exclamation. There is horror also. If something is very bad or very not only surprising, but it causes unusual emotion, horror. That means it fear in our mind. Then of course different types of joys are there, and they are the function of the mind. So it doesn't require to say that we do not know what is mind. We know that it is there, but we cannot really see. That is the point. Physically, we cannot perceive it. We cannot touch it. And of course, all the senses cannot really catch it. That is the point. Now, it has got different aspects also which can be observed. First is that there is, we can think, and that is a function of the mind. We see things, but seeing is something and thinking is something else. So after seeing, actually, if we really compare what we are seeing, so naturally we have to apply our mind, and in that way we have to figure out what we are seeing, and then we conclude that yes, this is a sort of, this is a book, or this is a tree, or whatever it may be. So that thinking is there. Then feeling is also there, emotion. That means something is joyous, something is painful. So this type of feeling we have, and that also is the function of the mind. Then there is another function which is called willing. That means I can think, well, I have to do something, I have to go something, and all those functions that I do physically originates from the mind. It is willing. Then, of course, there is doubting also. Doubting is the first reaction of the mind when we perceive something. If I perceive one sound, then probably I have to figure out whether it is coming from where it is coming. So naturally, I have to cogitate. That means this sound seems to be coming from this place. Then I confirm, oh yes, this is coming from probably this club or from the neighbor's house or something. Then actually doubting, that stage is overcome. So this first reaction to the mind is doubting. And of course, ultimately knowing also. When I acquire something, that means I keep in some knowledge inside our mind, that by knowing something, by reading something, or by seeing something, I collect it inside for future reference, if you call it, then it is called knowing. So these are the functions of the mind, and according to Vedanta, it is not that compartmentalized thing. Compartmentalized means there is not one place inside the mind which actually is functioning as knowing, or there is another place inside the mind which is willing. And in that way, all the functions that I describe are really totality of the mind actually works. It is a sort of configuration, you can say, as if the mind is taking the shape. Just for example, maybe like a ball, probably it is willing. If it may be a cube, probably it will be like doubting. So in that way, totality of the mind actually is working for all these functions. The difference between our concept of the mind, because nowadays mind is very much associated with the brain. That is true. That means without brain, mind will not function. But again, inside the brain, we have evidences that there are certain areas which actually work for different functions. Memory in some place, what is called what is called always smell, perception of smell in one place, feeling emotion in another place. In that way, different areas which is activated for different feelings according to our present understanding of the brain. But according to Vedanta, yes, that is true, but mind is really not the brain. That is the point. Mind itself is imperceptible. We do not know why it is existing, but it takes the help of the brain, probably in the certain areas of the brain, and in that way it works. Of course, there is one concept that mind's seat is heart. The reason is this: first perception is in the heart. That means the first reaction, whatever we see or whatever we feel, comes to heart. That is why it is said that according to Vedanta and yoga, the mind seat is heart. But definitely it is not really, it has not been found physically found that mind is really sitting in the heart. So this is the concept that we have to keep in mind. That means there are very functions of the mind, and we all know that these are the functions we perceive every day. There are another aspect of the mind, which is it has got three planes, strata as it may be called. One is subconscious state, another is conscious, another is superconscious state. And this superconscious state, we always refer that it is really a Vedantic concept. That means something which is beyond our mind is called superconscious. Because mind is, as I told you, that means it's a physical thing. That means it is existing. That means it's tangible as substance. It can be perceived. Someday probably it will be discovered also by some instrument that yes, this is the mind that is there, because it is a physical object. We have what is called some instruments by which we know this is proton or this is electron and all those things. We can know that. In that way, mind is really matter. So the thing is that this conscious state and superconscious state is a state. That means conscious state means when we are really awake, where you are not sleeping. In sleep, actually, we do not know what is happening, and mind is the state of it goes into subconscious state. That means it is really we can say darkness. Also, sometimes we dream also, but that is also in the category of subconscious. Their memory actually works or remains. It does not work also, but it can work. The mind can work in subconscious state also. But conscious state is the most important thing. There's no doubt. We are always acting with the outside world, within thinking and all those things also doing with the conscious state. These are the two states that are acknowledged by Western psychology. And superconscious state is a concept which is in Vedanta, that we can really, what is called, we can really transcend our mind. That is the superconscious state. It is, according to Vedanta, it is Turiya state. Turiya state means that that means consciousness as such. That means by which actually you are alive. So that, and also the mind. When the consciousness acts on the mind, then actually it becomes activated and it acts to the body, and then actually it acts with the outside world. But according to our present day science, there is no superconscious state. That means we do not really, because it is not perceptible, but there is a possibility that mind can be overcome and the consciousness actually can leave the body and mind, and then stay in one place, or it can become, as we say in Vedanta, merged in what is called ultimate reality or in Atman. So in that way it is there. So this superconscious state is a unique concept in Indian psychology or Indian, according to Vedanta, we can say. That is also important because we can experience it. And of course, everybody cannot experience it, but it is there and it has been found by different practitioners of yoga, and also definitely in spiritual practices, it has been found. So these are the aspects of the mind that is a very fundamental thing that I told you. And also there are certain forces that are working. We can categorize. That means there are certain forces that are working on the mind, or you can create those forces with our mind also. They are called sattva, rajas, and tamas. According to the result, that means that if the result is good, tranquil, or it is beneficial, we call that force that is working through us, or we are through us, or also working on us on the mind, is called sattva, sattika as it is called. Actually, that is the category which is really covetable. Covetable means that we need to acquire sattvic qualities. That means mind should be in a tranquil situation. Then there are two other forces, which is rajas and tamas. Tamas is the what is called a little bit a force which have animal qualities, we can say. That is a simple thing. Of course, we ourselves have these three qualities within ourselves, and according to the function of this sattva, rajas, and tamas, we are really functioning. Tamas means that we are in a animal tendencies. That means probably anger, then what is called fear, and all those functions which animals also have, and we are common with animal with in the qualities. They are called what is called animal qualities and tamas. Of course, some of the qualities are important. For example, sleep. Animals also sleep, and we also sleep. So naturally, that is very helpful. Some good qualities of tamas is also necessary. Then rajas is the activities. Animals also have, to some extent, we can say, these activities, but without any discrimination. That means they do not know how to act appropriately, except for hunting or such other things, or getting food. That is also activity. But we can apply rajas for in a better way. That means with the power of discrimination, we can apply our physical body and also mental work, all those things that are there, that is rajas. And these two, animal qualities and rajasic qualities, that means these active qualities, these need to be balanced, and also it has to be overcome. Overcome in a sense, that means it should not affect our mind, and that will be a sort of sattva. Sattva means, of course, in sattva some activities are there, but those activities lead to control of the mind. In that way, we have to choose. And we see in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has given extensively talked about this sattva, rajas, and tamas. They are very simple because we can perceive what is sattva, what is rajas, and what is tamas, and a physical world actually. In our mind also, and also he has given examples by which we can really identify what to do and what not to do. So in that way, we can acquire, we can give up something and acquire something, and in that way we can achieve sattvic qualities. And sattvic qualities need to be achieved or acquired for the sake of tranquility of the mind. So these are the concepts that are there about the mind in Vedanta. And Patanjali, who is considered to be the greatest of psychologists in what is called Indian philosophies, Patanjali is famous for his yoga and also study of the mind. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras that we are studying now, and we shall study, and also we are at the preliminary stage, we are studying the beginning. So Patanjali actually is considered to be the greatest psychologist in Indian philosophy and in Indian religion. So his Yoga Sutras are standard work, we can say. And that is very helpful because Patanjali is very practical in his approach, and it is applicable for everybody. So our mind is lashed by waves. That means it has been compared to a lake. because we cannot see mind, so naturally we have to understand mind. So some analogies and examples have to be taken. Help of those things need to be taken. So in that way, he has given the analogy with a lake. So in the lake, you see there are waves. So these waves are caused by two ways. That means from the outside also, if you are seeing something very horrible or very pleasing, so naturally one type of wave will be in the mind. And also by our thoughts also, you can create inside our mind different waves. So in that way, the mind is really in a always working through waves. That is the analogy. So when the mind is active, then we can say that yes, mind is having experiencing waves. And the goal is to not to have waves. That means it should be completely tranquil. That means there, there are certain time in the lake we see that water is not exactly stagnant, but it is clear, quiet, and no disturbances. So mind should be like that. That is the goal, analogically. Now, through our thoughts, feeling, and willing, actually, we create waves in our mind. Thought means I'm thinking something, so naturally, mind is activated. That is there. Then feeling also, that means some good feeling from outside stimuli. So pleasant feeling is coming, a beautiful breeze after hot weather. So naturally, nice feeling. Even nice music and such other thing creates good feeling. And also willing also, I want to do something, or I am compelled to do something. That in that way, the mind is also working. So these are the waves through which actually mind is working. Now, how actually these things work? That means if we actually, as it is said, when a wave strikes the head more strongly than the heart, it comes to be known as thought. So what is thought? A type of wave which is really, we can say, strikes the what is called brain. That means instead of heart, that means when it is not really feeling, but it is more in the form of thought. That is called actually, it is thought. We usually believe it is coming from the head. So when it strikes head, that is thought. When it strikes heart, it is called feeling. And when there is a balance, actually we can say it is sort of willing. That means we have compromised, or we have made a balance between thought and our feeling, and then actually we act. So in that way, it is called willing. So these are the aspects that are there in the mind. And mind as such, because it is material, so it does not have any consciousness. But we see that mind is working. How it is working? Because there is the consciousness within ourselves, which we call Atman. Because of its existence of Atman, and Atman's acting on it. Acting means it is not physically act, but it is something like its proximity, we can say. Just like, because of the proximity of the magnet, the iron files get activated. So in the same way, because of the existence of the Atman, mind gets activated. So in that way, it is working. Mind does not have its own life, or what is called energy, power of action. Now, as we know that to understand, we can have, to understand tranquility, we have to know that yes, mind, if we watch our mind, it is really always in, especially in the conscious state, when we are really awake. We see that if we watch our mind, we shall see that it is really always working. That means it is not in a quiet situation. And all as teachers will say that if you want to have peace of mind, you have to control your mind. And how to control the mind? So Lord Krishna has given a very apt answer to that. That means if you have to do some practices, you have to practice, and also you have to practice, give up something, attachment, and also by practice. And very famous verses are there where Lord Krishna has said, the mind is obstinate, powerful, and restless. What is called Arjuna actually asked Krishna, said to Krishna, told Krishna that you see, mind is very obstinate. That means if you think that as you wish, you shall be able to control the mind, it will not happen. That doesn't work. Then also it is so powerful that it will really revolt when you really try to control it. And as a result, it remains restless. That means it is always agitated or moving. So to control it is really very difficult. And what type of difficult? What is the analogy of the difficulty? Just like wind. Wind, you know, it is now here, it is now there, it is passing. So in that way, it is always in movement. Stagnant situation is also there when it is air. That means in a closed room, probably it is not that agitated. But definitely, when in most of the time, actually, wind is really active. So in that way, mind is always active. That is the point Arjuna is saying. So the reason is that Lord Krishna asked Arjuna to practice control of the mind, but to control the mind is really very difficult as controlling the what is called the wind. Then, of course, Lord Krishna said that, well, that is very true, and that can be controlled by practice and what is called renunciation or dispassion. Dispassion means not to get the mind attached to something, special attraction. Attachment means some longing is there, or something actually we do not want to give up, we want to possess. So a sort of possession of something of the mind is called, will be called attachment. So there is hardly any other way of controlling the mind except through practice and dispassion. That is the only way by which actually we can control the mind. So step by step, we are seeing that the mind is like this. Then these are the qualities, and how to control that is the two practices, physical practices, you can say. Physical in a sense, that means act with the activity of the mind, we have to control that. Then practice consists in constantly repeating the same thought at a particular level of consciousness. That is called practice. This has got really, this is an important thing. That means a repeated thought. You know, there are some negative aspect of a repeated thought. There are certain thoughts which are coming to my mind, which is not really very helpful. That actually can cause havoc in our mind also. Some experience that is really very bad. And if you repeatedly think of that, actually that will affect our personality if it goes in depth. And some horrific experience if somebody has got. I know if somebody sees somebody is being, say, accident, and in accident, actually it is so terrible that probably some people died and there's a lot of damage and all those things. And that picture remains embedded in the mind. And if that is thought continuously, if we cannot really get rid of that thought, actually it will affect the mind, and ultimately it will be a sort of disease of the mind that it will affect a person deeply. So we have to be very careful. That means when it is said, practice consists in constantly repeating the same thought at a particular level of consciousness. Consciousness means, that means, yes, this thought I have chosen, and this thought has been said that it will really harmless, not only harmless, it will be useful for the controller mind. In that way, we have to be selective in finding out what thought we shall be thinking repeatedly. That is very important because without practice, we shall not be able to control the mind. So that we need to know how actually we have to select that thing and how to repeat that or continuously think of that thought. Now, dispassion means freedom from the desire or pleasure of seen or unseen, attained through a constant perception of evil in them. Dispassion means there are certain things or certain thoughts by thinking which actually no benefit is there. Unnecessary, we are actually wasting our mental energy by thinking that. Or in that way also, in the corner of our mind, we have some desire, and the desire is not being fulfilled. So in that we are thinking of that. Well, yes, I need to go to, I need to go and see that place, and continuously are thinking, but it is not happening because I am sick, or probably I shall not be able to go there ever. So what to do? So this thought is always coming. It is sort of attachment, and we have to apply our discrimination there. We have to make our mind understood that, well, it is not possible to go to what is called to moon or Mars, which so many people will be looking forward to go, or even what is happening, say, going to the space. Nowadays, actually, going to the space has become feasible. So if I have that type of desire, well, I need to go and see how the earth is round and how it feels when without gravity. So that is a strong desire if I have in our mind, and we think of that, but I do not have that money to get a seat in that type of what is called space shuttle. So we have to make our mind understood that anything unattainable, unachievable, which is beyond our reach, we have to apply a discrimination and get rid of that type of thought. But this thought, if it is feasible for some people, naturally it works. Ultimately, we see those who are really struggling to achieve that goal, they have that means, or they have acquired the means. So in their case, we can say this repeated thought has worked positively. So that is one aspect. But definitely those who want to have the mental tranquility need to give up this type of desire, which are really unattainable. That is the point. So the point is that dispassion means freedom from desire for pleasure, seen or unseen. Pleasure means naturally that is a desire. Example that is, I said that, well, I shall have the, I shall be able to see how the earth looks from, say, 300 feet above the ground. So that type of desire, actually, that is a pleasure. Pleasure means a sort of experience that we'll have, which is unique and attained through constant perception of the. Then I have to argue inside our mind that, well, that is not possible for me for such these reasons, which is really, it is real. So then actually you have to think, you have to give up that type of desire. That is the point. It is by practice and dispassion that disturbances, there is a technical term in Sanskrit which is called vikshepa. That means mind is really dragged away from its what is called gravity, we call it, or it is center of gravity. In that way, it is distracted. The passage of thought in the direction of external objects can be restrained. It is thus the mind is restrained. So by the simple rule will be any thought or anything that I want to enjoy, and I think that it will bring me happiness. And if it is unattainable for me, I can, if I feel warm, naturally I can start the air conditioner. That is within my reach. That means I can do that. That type of desire is actually understandable, that they can be fulfilled. But desires which are really within beyond my reach, that has to be given up by what is called by discrimination, by making the mind understood that these are beyond my means. So there is no use of wasting the mental energy by thinking that type of thought. So it will be unique for an individual. So I do not know what is in the mind of somebody who has this desire in the mind, and that one has to discover by looking to the what they are thinking, and in that way we have to make our mind understood. Now there are certain other things that has been said, and Patanjali has said. As I told you, Patanjali is very practical. That means these things, he has given some practices by which actually we can keep the mind under control. It is dispassion is there, and also a practice that Lord Krishna has said. And now, looking to the for a longer course, we can say if we have certain type of habits we cultivate, then we shall see that mind remains quiet. Quiet means it is not disturbed. It is not complete quietness, but definitely the disturbances of the mind will be reduced. Now, what is that? He has said, undisturbed calmness of mind is attained by cultivating friendliness towards the happy. All the disturbances are there in our mind. If we see, if we analyze, there are certain areas where when the mind is really disturbed, is that if we see somebody's happiness, and that creates in our mind a sort of envy. That means, yes, my neighbor has got some this car and that car, and he goes to Hawaii and such other places. So naturally, I am envious of his activities. That I cannot achieve that, but by thinking of that in that way, actually, the mind get disturbed. So the point is that if you see happiness somewhere, if somebody is happy and you are not happy, but somebody is happy with something, we have to be friendly. That means we have to be happy with his happiness. That means he has a good luck. God has given him such and such thing. In that way, we have to what is called recognize that happiness within our in our mind. So instead of happiness, if we cultivate envy, that will be a long-lasting difficulty in our mind, disturbance in our mind. Then, of course, compassion for unhappy. Compassion means, that means some people are unhappy. That means they are having difficulties. That is very true. Somebody is ill, or somebody is what is called because of the situation of the life, they are very, very bad situation. Suppose these immigrants, you can see that what a difficulty they have in their countries. There is no way that they can survive or they can live happily. So naturally, they are in search of fortune. They are migrating to countries that hope that they will live happily. But there are so many obstacles in that path. So the point is that when this type of unhappiness we see, it is good to help them if we can. That means at a distance we cannot do, but definitely whatever we can do, we should do for when we see unhappiness. Probably we can see a person who is in not good shape. So when we drive, probably at the corner of the what is called at the junction of the road, somebody is asking for some money or something like that because he's not having food or shelter, then actually we have to have compassion instead of really getting disturbed, because probably may feel that, oh, this person doesn't want to work, just begging, and in that way we just don't care. That actually is not really good from the point of view of mind. Probably economically or from the point of view otherwise, it will be it may have some other repercussion, but definitely for the sake of the mind, it is better to sympathize with the unhappy situation. That means if somebody is unhappy, try to make him happy in whatever way it is possible. So now these are that is the unhappy. Compassion for the unhappy and delight in good. It is almost like happiness, friendliness towards happy. That means if something good is come, we should really feel happy about that. And also when there is evil, evils are also there. That means somebody has done something, something has happened very bad. Actually, we have to avoid that. That means we should not really encourage that. That is that has been said. So there is one verse in our spiritual literature which has come from Buddhist scripture. That means probably it has come from a talk by Lord Buddha. He has said that always pray in this way: may all beings be happy and secure. May they may be happy-minded. That means think of happiness for everybody, not only for yourself, but think of happiness for everybody. Let all be happy, let all be peaceful, let all have bliss. That means thinking of this type of thought actually helps us. If I think that everybody be happy, I know certainly that I cannot make, my thought will not make everybody happy. That is sure, there's no doubt about it. But what I shall do, or I shall pray like that, because for my own sake. That means if I think in that way, my mind will be quiet. That means I shall not be disturbed by outside unhappy situation. So this is the what is called a sort of vibration we can create within ourselves. The Buddhist scriptures, it is called Sutta Nipato. And that secret of a peaceful mind is the cultivation of boundless goodwill for all beings. All beings means not only human being, all other beings of the universe, we can say. So this world definitely on earth, definitely, but all over the universe. In that way, this prayer is very effective. That is the point. So may all beings be happy and secure. May they be happy-minded. Then it has been said, by seeing the happiness of others, we have to be happy, that I said, and also by seeing the compassionate for those who are in misery, that is, we have said, then we have to be delighted when there is good. That means good qualities, goodness, and all those things we have to encourage. So in that way, all these four virtues, if we call them, they have to be cultivated, and that will keep the mind under control. Then, of course, there are certain prayers that has been said, which those who are really wicked, we shall also pray for them. Wicked in a sense, that means they have negative forces that are under the grip of negative forces. So let the wicked may become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility. That means we have to, I am trying to be tranquil, but we have to really help others also to acquire tranquility. I may not know, but if I really pray for that, actually, that will be helpful for them. If I am in a situation where all people are praying in this way, that means may all wicked become virtuous, may all virtuous attain tranquility. If I, without my knowledge, if I drop there, if I am there, I shall be feeling a sort of what is called tranquility in our mind, because that creates a sort of vibration. I do not know how actually it works, but definitely we can feel that. I also feel that, that means when I go out and just do some errands, and then when I come inside our center, somehow or other it works. That means as if it is a quiet place, because probably we do practice control of the mind. So that has some sort of effect on the surroundings. So then if we can join also, if a group of people does this type of prayer together, then actually it will be also more effective. That is the point. May the tranquil be free from bonds. That means some sort of attachments. Those who are their mind, let their mind may not be dragged down. And also they let them work for the freedom of others, for the tranquility of others also. So in that way, that prayer also is very effective for individuals. It is not that sometimes we feel that if I pray for somebody, actually that person will get this thing. That means I'm as if I'm helping that person. Actually, it does not work much in that way. We have very little power to help others until and unless that person actually helps themselves. That is the point. It is a matter of individual effort from the point of view of mind. Of course, physically, I can give bread, or I can give a little bit good words. I can give some medicine. In that way, you can help physically. But if you want to make, if one's mind needs to be made tranquil, it has to, the person himself will have to, or himself or herself will have to work for that. That is very important to remember. So these thoughts actually helps other people to achieve that. Now, there is something which there are certain practices which has been said by Patanjali, that suppose you are in a very bad situation, that means mind is getting angry. That means you are in such a situation, the anger is coming out or getting it is popping up in your mind. So what to do at that moment? So that is also, that means it is sort of a fire extinguisher. That means you have to have some thoughts which will really extinguish that anger like that. And that is called Pratipaksha Bhavanam. So it is like this. In this, Patanjali gives a very handy and useful precept. He says, the embody, it is a discipline which is known as Pratipaksha Bhavanam, thinking of the contrary. Contrary means something which is really exact opposite to that. So suppose you are having a thought which is inimical. That means you are feeling something bad for other person. So in that way, you bring a thought which will be friendly to that friend. That means immediately, that is probably you cannot physically do that, but just to control inimical thought, just knowingly raise some what is called opposite thought. So this is, it has been said that we often notice that a wave of anger is just rising in our mind. And so it is naturally upsetting our peace of mind, disturbing the mind. Then what we should do, we should then at once raise a contrary wave, a wave of love. It may appear to be something very, how it is possible, but still physically, that means intentionally, we can, if we can do that, it will be automatically subdued. That means this anger will be subdued. This is a practical thing, practice. That means by practicing that, we can really find the result. Then actually, there are certain other purity. If something bad thoughts come, then thinking of purity may come. And there is another stopgap way of also. That means there are persons, and we know the great personalities like spiritual persons who are purest of the pure, like Buddha, Jesus Christ, and we say about Sri Ramakrishna, and also many other gods and goddesses that are there in Hinduism. They are embodiment of Sattva quality. That means gods and goddess means that they are embodiment of what is called Sattvic qualities, good qualities. That means which actually we need to achieve. So under such circumstances, when there is negative thoughts like these, that means waves of anger, lust, violence are coming in the mind. If we just think of them, just bring the image of that personality, actually that will be overcome. That is a very practical way. We know about Jesus Christ, or we know about Lord Buddha, we know about Ramakrishna, or Ramakrishna. Many great spiritual personalities are there who are really helpful, has helped humanity in an immense way for spiritual purposes. If we just think of them, actually it will be that thought, negative thought will be overcome. Now, these are the practical things that has been said in our scriptures that we can find out. Now, why actually these things are happening? Patanjali points out that all these imperfections are rooted in asmita. Asmita means egoism. That means according to Patanjali, our what we call Atman, or the consciousness in general, you can say for easy understanding, because it is associated with our mind through asmita, that means egoism. Ego is the root cause of these disturbances. If we can really segregate our ego from the mind, or you can leave ego in our mind, then what is called segregate our consciousness, that means Atman or Purusha, then actually all the problems will be solved. And that is the goal of what is called all spiritual practices. That means you have to overcome all this attachment to our what is called body and mind. Mind actually, the present day topic is mind. So if you can really detach our consciousness from this mind, then it will be possible. That is actually very hard and also a long distance goal, but that is, we have to understand theoretically that all these things are happening because our consciousness is getting attached to our mind. I can give you a good example, and we are experiencing that every day. That means during the sleep. In the sleep, actually, you see the mind is very peaceful. If you sleep well, that means deep sleep. You can understand why. Because at that time, ego is not working. We don't have ego functioning there. So, but that has to be achieved during a waking state, conscious state. That is the goal. So how to achieve that? Naturally by practice of yoga, by control of these things that I told. So there are many other ways by which it can be done. But the point is that until and unless we can achieve that, you cannot expect there will be full tranquility. That means mind will always be in a disturbed condition until and unless you can separate it from this or control this ego, this attachment of the consciousness with the mind and body. For the attachment, the mechanism according to Vedanta is like this: consciousness is there. That means it is all pervading. A little bit of that actually has got attached to the what is called our individual mind, and the minds are there. And this, with the individual mind, actually it is working through the bodily forces, and then actually it is working with the outside objects. In that way, step by step, these are happening. So for our understanding this asmita, this connection of the ego with the consciousness, that is what is called, that joins the mind with the consciousness, this egoism. So if we can really subdue that, then there will be no problem of controlling the mind. Mind will be automatically controlled, because there is no way it will become conscious of anything. So that example is this, that in deep sleep, actually, we do that. It happens to everybody automatically. So it becomes very peaceful in deep sleep, and we do not know how it is happening, but definitely at that time, ego is not functioning at all. Then again, ego functions during the dream state also. So we are not physically awake, but inside the mind, actually, ego has started working, and it is getting the help. It is being fed by the memory. So in that way, actually, ego starts working silently inside the mind. That is the dream state. And what to say about waking state? That means without ego, we shall not be awake. That is the point. It is not possible. So this practice that we do in meditation are the practices that has been said by Patanjali, and other techniques are there, is just targeted towards this separation of this consciousness of the mind by subduing ego, disconnecting ego. We shall be able to achieve that. This is the theoretical understanding. Egoism is the identification of the seer with the instrument of seeing, that Patanjali has said. Egoism is the identification. That means I am this, I am that, this is my mind, or in that way, I-ness is the connecting rod. So these are the ways by which we see that Patanjali has said, according to Indian psychology, you can say that we can achieve the tranquility of the mind. By tranquility, as I have mentioned, in my beyond joy and sorrow, we have to keep in mind, joy also is disturbance. If you have joy, then you have sorrow. Opposite is also there. That means it is a sort of agitation of the mind. So we have to get rid of both. Just like in deep sleep, we don't have joy and sorrow in deep sleep. So in the same way, if we can do that in conscious state, that is the goal of controlling the mind. Now, there is another aspect that is also Lord Buddha has said in his one of the sermons. He has said that, well, if you just a sort of attitude, a long distance attitude, that means if everybody has got a sort of philosophy of life, you can say goal of life, understanding of the life. So if you can make your understood that, well, some inevitable things are there in our lives. One is what? That means we all shall, if we live long, so naturally old age will come. You cannot really escape old age. So it is seen every day. We can see that, well, yes, young persons are there, newborn babies are there, there are old persons are there. So we can imagine that it will happen to me also. That is inevitable. So we cannot think that we shall remain young forever. So just accept those truths. Youth will leave us someday, and old age will come upon us. Then actually disease will come upon us someday or we cannot avoid it. That is quite evident. This pandemic situation have taught us what is called without any doubt. That means disease will come. You can say how it can be what is called so drastic. Then death will come upon us someday and we cannot avoid it. That is also unavoidable. So many people died. We all know that means in our acquaintances, with whom actually we are associated, some of them have died. And in that way, you can conclude that, well, my death is also inevitable. I cannot live forever. Though we can say mentally or we can understand intellectually, but to impress our mind with that truth is really very difficult. We are always trying to live forever. Then fourth is that all things we hold dear are subject to change, decay, or separation, and we cannot avoid this. There are what is called children are there. So they are born, they are so happy, and we are delighted to have. But this happiness will not last forever. Ultimately, they will grow up and they will have their own lives. So in that way, separation will come. So this is for all things which are dear to us, we shall get separated. Then fifth is that what is called, we have to get the result of our own action. That means if I do something good, I shall get some result. If I do some bad, I shall get some result, and we have to accept that. So it is like this, the outcome, the fruits of our own thoughts and actions, good or bad, will have to be read by ourselves. Our action, good action, actually we shall reap, we shall enjoy it, and our bad actions result also we shall reap. In that way, actually, it is inevitable. So these are the 5 areas you can see which are inevitable things we have to accept in ourselves. So in that way, we can really keep our mind understood that, well, don't do something which are against this, what is called these truths. You cannot really achieve anything overcoming these things. You cannot really overcome these things. This will happen to everybody. So these are the simple things that has been said by our great teachers that is really helpful in the acquisition of tranquility or serenity of our mind. And if we practice it, and some of us definitely are trying to practice them, and to some extent, actually, we shall be able to overcome our disturbances of the mind, especially those who are in an acute situation of this disturbance. For them, it is very important to practice them. And those who are really in a better position, they need to continue these practices. That means you cannot think that, oh, my mind is now very nice and happy, tranquil, so I shall do something and some activities and something else which really I did not do. Actually, that will again disturb your mind. So we have to continue the practice. That is the most important part. That means without practice, as Lord Krishna has said, without practice, actually, you cannot achieve the goal. That is the bottom line of this, what is called, of this talk. So from October, actually, we shall have our in-person services. That means in the auditorium. And only the requirement will be that you have to be vaccinated and you have to wear masks. So you are most welcome to attend our in-person services in October. On 3rd October, Sunday, Ishwadhananda will speak on meditation on Mother Durga. As you know, the season of Mother worship of God, Durga, then Mother Kali, Mother Lakshmi, and all those things one will come one after another till Mother Jagadhatri's worship. So in that way, the season is coming. This is a season. In autumn season, actually, it starts. So it will be nice to hear about Mother Durga. We shall worship Mother Durga also here. So Ishwadhananda will speak on 3rd October, Sunday, meditation on Mother Durga. Then There will be a Wednesday class, and that class I shall continue here. That means I am at present conducting this service in our assembly room. So I shall conduct the class in person. That means you are welcome to attend. I shall arrange some chairs here. So if you want to attend it in person, you are welcome. Otherwise, also it will be on Zoom. That means Sunday lecture also will be on YouTube, the online. At the same time, it will be in the auditorium in person. And the same way, Raja Yoga class also will be in person, and it will be on Zoom. That is next Raja Yoga class will be on Wednesday, 6th. No, it will be on September 29th. Then Ishodhananda will continue his Narada Bhakti Sutra on Zoom only. That means it is aphorism and devotion that will be on 1st October. Then I shall conduct the discourse on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. That is, of course, this October 2nd, I shall not be here. So that Saturday discourse will be cancelled. So in that way, we are trying to be normal as far as possible. And we are starting from October, as I told you, in person as well as online services. So those who want to attend online in-person services, they are welcome. Only thing, as I told you, that you have to get, you can understand that it's very practical, and it has been insisted by our local authorities also that one should be vaccinated and also use mask inside. Om madhuvatarithayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhi-irna santoshadhihi madhunakta mutosasi madhumat parthibagam rajaha madhudaurastuna pita madhumanna vanaspatihi madhumagangastu surjaha madhirgavo bhavantunah. Om Madhu, Madhu, Madhu. Sweet blood the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the earths and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessings. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us with the all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace. Thank you very much for attending the Sunday service, and hopefully we shall be able to see some of you in our Sunday service as well as in online also. Thank you again.